Hello everyone, my name is Tuyết Nhung. I'm an English teacher at Chung Chin High School in Kon Tum. Before presenting my studies, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to my mentor, Dr. Đỗ Thị Quý Thu, especially my supervisor, Associate Professor, Dr. Phan Văn Hóa. Today, I'm very honored to participate in Literature Convention 2020 to present my study on investigation into grammatical metaphors in Ielts writing text, its strength, teaching methods, and applied linguistics. There are purposes in my presentation: the first introduction, the second literature and theoretical background, third visual design methodologies, the fourth finding and discussion, and the last but not least is conclusion. My first point is introduction about grammars and grammatical metaphors in Ielts writing text. We all know that grammars played an important part in Ielts writing text, even though we are not directly tested grammar, but for skills, speaking, listening, reading, or writing need being well grammar organized. In that case, grammatical metaphors take integral part. We know it's a new term, it's a new concept. However, it's effective in the scientific or academic writing. According to Halliday, in 1985, grammatical metaphors is just categorization phenomenon. It means that it is replacement of one grammar or one structure to another. Now, look at example to know more about this phenomenon. The first sentence is congruent. Because I appear and observe every day, I can stand that the best way of learning about life is through personal experience. And we know the second sentence is incongruent expression. It means that metaphorical expression from my everyday experience and observation, we can stand that the best way of learning about life is through personal experience, and there are the differences between two sentences. And so we know this process we call nominal illustration. We know that nominal illustration is considered as the main procedure to express grammatical metaphors, and it made expression more complex in form and effective in the meaning. Now, turn to the second part, literature and theoretical background. In the first part, I will give a general pictures about grammatical metaphors. To look at grammatical metaphors through books or articles or theses from the famous writers such as in the words Halliday or Martin Ielts. In Vietnam, Phan Văn Hóa, Lê Thị Giao Tri, Trịnh Thị Quỳnh Thư. From doing so, I can identify the research problem correctly. About theoretical backgrounds are focused on the ideational, interpersonal, and textual grammatical metaphors appeared in two books. Now, turn to the aim of the studying. In this process, I focus on the summarizing grammatical metaphors theories, and we know with the big number of the data collected from the Ielts essay, proving that grammatical metaphors take a very effective role in scientific or academic writing, and then suggesting grammatical metaphors application. About objectives, we focus on semantics, syntactic features, and functions. Turn to the visual design methodologies. We know there are 480 samples collected from two books. The first best practice book for Ielts writing by Moonen Stratt, and the second book is How to Write at the Band 9 Levels by Ryan Higgins, based on Halliday theories, functional grammar perspective. And there are two methods in my studies. The first, qualitative, and the second, quantitative. We use this to describe, demonstrate, and analyze the symbol appeared in the book. And there are two reasons I chose these books to analyze the symbol. The first is about content. We know they are scientific writings, It means that vocabulary in two books are varieties, and therefore it helps to develop excellent writing skill. The second reason is about language. We know there are many excellent studies before focused on grammatical metaphor. However, there are not any study combine three metafunctions, interpersonal, ideational, and textual in one study. So that is the reason why I chose two books to analyze my studies. Now look at the figures about grammatical metaphors to note nominalizations from the congruent form and metaphorical form according to Revelage in 1985. Look at the figure, we can see that at monophonical expression, we can see nominalization doesn't appear in this case. However, as the lexical grammars, there are two forms. The first congruence form and the second metaphorical form. And at the semantic expression, we can see semantic one is mean that, meaning one or contains one. Semantic and metaphorical form, there are two meanings or two semantics. The semantic one is mean that, meaning one or contains one. The semantic two is mean that, meaning two or contain two. From doing so, we can conclude that the process of nominalizing can switch from one to at least three contents, congruent and incongruent. Now, look at example to know more about this phenomenon. Look at example 8. Because more people are immigrating to Sydney, property costs more money. They are through the circle in this figure. And this example we can quote is the congruent realization because it only expresses the normal way. We can see the inner circle indicating the lexical grammar consists of nominal groups such as more people or Sydney or more money. And verbal group, look at, we can concluding are immigrating to and court. And we can see the inner circle and the outer circle, they are the relationship between them. So the outer circle indicating the cross semantics, concluding relators, process, and participant. Now turn to the figures incongruence realization. Look at example 8 and example B, we can see the difference between them. The inner circle and the outer circle show the relationships through the relators using dots. We can see the verb group are immigrating convert to immigrations to Sydney, and the conjunction because convert to due to show the incongruent. We come to the figures, another figure to know more about the variations of grammatical metaphors in this case. We compare three symbols. Look at the figures. We know relators, that's related groups due to transfers verbal groups has due to. And because in example 8, rebuild is rebuilt in nominal group, the Sydney immigration crowd and the next clause, we can see recognize nominal groups, increased property costs. You look at example C to know more the difference between three examples. Now turning to the important part in the studies, findings, and discussion. According to Halliday, there are three kinds of grammatical metaphors, including ideational, interpersonal, and textual grammatical metaphors. The first one is ideational metaphors. We know that ideational grammatical metaphors is the metaphors of transitivities. It means that concerned with the broadcasting information through the processes, and it expresses the human experience thanks to language. Look at the table to know more the type of ideational metaphor according to Halliday. We know in the plot, nominalization appears a lot. So With the first type of additional is nominal illustration in the clause, the second nominal illustration below the clause, and the last nominal illustration above the clause, and the total of the symbols in this kind take a big numbers, 125 symbols. We can see in the plot, nominal illustration in the clause take the biggest number, 88 symbols. The turn to the interpersonal grammatical metaphors. So we know that in this time we know language is used to interact with another person. It expresses interpersonal meaning. So it has the most functions. So look at the table. According to Halliday, there are two kinds of interpersonal grammatical metaphors, including metaphor of mood and metaphor of modalities. We can see metaphor of mood take the biggest numbers with 228 symbols, and the total of the symbol in this kind is 275. So we can see interpersonal grammatical metaphors appears a lot in two books, and it appears a lot in academic writing. It expresses the connections between the writers and examiners, which means that the readers, because they are very highly interactive, and it presents information for the reader. And the tense in the academic writing, in this case, is highly interpersonal. It's expressed when or how or mostly modalities of events or the actions happening in the message. It made the sentences more condensed information because it transfers meaning and the content. Besides, it expresses the behaviors of the sender in the language. Now we turn to the last kind of grammatical metaphors, textual metaphors. We note in the plot, language constructs as materials, social realities. It looks like conjunction, and there are 4 kinds of textual, and it takes the base number 70 symbols. We can see. So far, I have finished 4 integral plots. We come to conclusion. Beyond the discussions above, there are some characteristics in Ielts writing test. The characteristics are identified according to categorization systems of Halliday's theories of systemic functional grammars. From the research obtained, one can arrive to some conclusion. Grammatical metaphor expressions are categorized into 3 metafunctions of ideational, interpersonal, and textual to examine the application frequencies in the writing text. We know the grammatical metaphors occupy quite a large number, 480 symbols with many types. All of these types occur with different numbers, as we can see on the table. The interpersonal grammatical metaphors is the biggest one, and the ideational grammatical metaphors is the least. Now look at examples collected from 2 books to know more about grammatical metaphors appeared in academic writing. We note this phenomenon appears a lot in academic writing, so we can see ideational, interpersonal, and textual. I underline some sentences to make it clearly. The last point is application. As we know, grammatical metaphors, if applied correctly, become unexpected tools for writing academic discourse effectively. Grammatical metaphors make the expression more complex in form and more effective in meaning and content. In Ielts writing text, the application of grammatical metaphors is more necessary. However, we should pay more attention to some procedures as follows. The grammatical metaphors is not only the way of transforming or changing the words or the structures in discourse in the better ways. Both also reflect the way of scientific thinking. Nominalization in this case is the most important procedure for creating grammatical metaphors. In this case, at the first beginning, teachers should have learned to identify nominalizations at the level of words, phrase, and glossary. Then show them the similarity and difference between nominalization and grammatical metaphors. It takes time, but when English learners recognize this, they will do better in writing. The teachers need use many types of examples for illustration. To do so, teachers should explain clearly the types of grammatical metaphors and their respective words in writing. Elite teachers will use the grammatical metaphors advantage in teaching writing, especially in Ielts writing. This presentation is just a beginning step in grammatical metaphors research for Ielts writing, so I hope grammatical metaphors will be more considered in teaching and learning English. That's in my presentations. Thank you for your listening.